I'm sure we've all asked ourselves this question, that how would the live-action Avatar The Last Airbender handle its aging child stars? Because when the main characters were cast in the show, Gordon, for example, was 11 years old, and after filming and post-production and everything, he's already 14, and if we're lucky enough to get a season 2 and filming begin, let's say, next year, he will be 15 playing a 12-year-old. And the same thing goes for other characters in the show. I even made a community post on this topic a while back, and you guys voted in favor of Netflix adjusting the story to fit his age. Well, Entertainment Weekly just dropped a piece where the showrunner Albert Kim explains how he had to rethink the story to accommodate the teen cast growing up on screen, and that's what we're going to talk about today. But before we get started, please make sure you hit that like button and subscribe if you've not already. Make sure you stick around to the end of the video for my suggestion on how they could handle the aging characters without tweaking anything, specifically for Aang. And now let's get into what we have for today's video. Now, the showrunner tagged this issue as the Stranger Things problem because the main cast of Stranger Things started off as actual 10 and 11-year-olds playing 11-year-olds in the show, but now they're in their 20s playing 15-year-olds, and the physical difference between the age of the actors and their characters is quite glaring. And if Gordon is already 14 now that the first season of the show is being released, then he might be 20 by the time we get to the third season. And have you heard his voice lately?
It's the funniest thing, and he was serious, like so serious, and it looked so good, but I couldn't.
The boy is growing up fast. So the showrunner tells Entertainment Weekly that currently the entire team of the show is focused on the release of the first season with post-production and all that. But he added that the first season was designed to accommodate the possibility of some time elapsing between the first season and the second season. But then my question is, how much time can this be? Because it can't take Team Avatar a year to arrive at the Earth Kingdom for the second season with them having physical changes, so I'm curious to see how they'll handle this. Now, this is the fun, or should I say the questionable part of the whole interview. The showrunner added that part of the strategy to accommodate the aging characters involves Sozin's Comet. He described it as the ticking clock of the show, which made all 3 seasons of the animated series to take place in the course of 1 year. Well, guess what they did for this remake? They removed the ticking clock element from this Netflix show because it would be hard to tell how old the actors would be for subsequent seasons. And he concluded by saying perhaps it's something he and his team can revisit in a future season, but first things first, finish season 1 and see how the viewers respond to it. Now, in my opinion, this approach has its advantages and disadvantages. And let's be clear, they are not removing Sozin's Comet from the show, just this part.
Listen carefully. Sozin's Comet will return by the end of this summer.
And while a new take on Sozin's Comet will definitely allow the young cast to age into their characters, it leaves a lot of question mark in the story. For instance, let's say Sozin's Comet arrives in 3 years. How are they going to explain Team Avatar evading Zuko, Azula, the Fire Lord, the entire Fire Nation for 3 whole years? They'll either have to reduce the competency of our villains for this to happen, or come up with something else. And I don't think it's a great idea to just remove the ticking clock elements of the comet completely, because the urgency to master all the elements before the comet was a very crucial theme in all 3 seasons of the animated show. I would suggest that they expand the time frame and just update the rules of mastering an element to allow Aang master all the 4 elements for a longer period. Now, to conclude this discussion, this is what I'd suggest they do to handle our main characters aging without having to tweak Sozin's Comet. For characters like Sokka, Zuko, and even Katara, their actors can play them at any age because Ian and Dallas are currently in their 20s already, and they won't change that much for the next 5 or 6 years. Gyawenti is currently 17, and she doesn't look too different from what she was when she was cast in the show at the age of 14. Same thing with Lizzie, who is currently 21, playing a 14-year-old, and she still looks very young. The main issue is Gordon as Aang. And what I'd suggest is that they let him age naturally without a time jump, and they could explain this by saying that since he's a 112-year-old, his body is aging faster than it should have. And this is not far from the lore of the story because Aang died at the age of 66 as a result of being frozen while in the Avatar state for 100 years, and that time spent drained his life force, causing him to die at a pretty young age after living for a total of 166 years. So the showrunner could introduce this lore right now in the first season, so it wouldn't be odd when we see a 16-year-old looking Aang still being a 12-year-old. But I doubt my opinion will reach the ears of the showrunner, so I can only hope they think in this direction too. But I'd like to hear what you think about this topic down in the comment section below. Now, if you're wondering what characters may not make it into this Netflix remake, I suggest you check out this video of mine where I went over some characters that may not make it into the show. Like, share and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye guys.